Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we're here this week to talk about not the first, not the second, not the third episode of Adventures in Odyssey, but the fourth.
Number sign 4.
Connie Comes to Town.
Hot diggity dog. Single digits, baby.
Wild.
Yeah. And it shows.
Yeah. Complex episode, and we'll be getting into it. Don't worry. It's the episode that introduces Connie Kendall, as played by Katie Lee. It is the fourth episode of the show. It's written and directed by Phil Lawler and Steve Harris collaboratively, who were the creators of Adventures in Odyssey.
Okay.
It's got a John Campbell score.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Bolte's producing, Bob Luttrell doing the post-production. Unlike all Chris is hosting, the pieces are all here.
Yeah, no, it's insane how much the format of the show has stayed consistent across 30 years. I mean, even the biggest format change was probably within the first 15 years. The first 10 years, once they really got away from what we see in this episode, which is the really extended intros.
Oh, I mean, the skits are gone within 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Even less, maybe, because it's when the show is producing new episodes every week.
Yeah.
Once they finish that out, that drifts away. But, it's the wild thing with Odyssey, it's so easy to forget in doing this show.
Mm-hmm.
But the first, we're at 900 episodes. The first 300 are over the course of 5 years.
Yeah, that is
or the first
bonkers.
250 or whatever, however it works out.
Yeah,
and then over time, stuff spreads out more and more.
Yeah,
to where now we get 12 real episodes a year.
A slow trickle,
but
honestly, the way that it is now, I can't say that more would be better.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Odyssey has, if anything, this show has shown us, there are episodes in every era of Odyssey to be critical of.
Yes, certainly. And there are episodes in every era that we enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
But it is really cool. I mean, obviously, this is the earliest episode we've ever covered, and to hear the names that are so much the same, it's written by Phil Lawler.
Right. Yep.
He wrote the Connie Comes to Town episode, and he, voices characters on the show for so long that so much of it, I don't know, the nostalgia is very thick for it being the beginning of something so great now.
Yeah, and there is, I think consistency is maybe what we're looking for there, where it's even over all the years and all the changes, this still does feel like Odyssey. Wits End still feels the same. Yeah. Even if we are 3 wits removed.
Yeah.
The shop is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
but the door is not the same, because there's no bell.
There is no bell on the door. I was just assuming that they were in a different room whenever the door opened. So it's funny. Not all the language of the show is there, but
most of it is. And when you the fact that I picked up on that shows that that was a staple that came up, really early on. I think probably by album 2 or 3.
Yeah. It's not far out. Yeah, because I'm pretty confident. Well, so it's for sure there. So I don't know if we established this, guys. I know we didn't. But we're doing the, Connie's initial arc. The 12 episodes where she goes from new girl entering town to girl who is now a Christian. Mm-hmm. So we're covering those, which will take us through a lot of different genres of Old Odyssey and should be a really fun time.
I'm so excited.
But by the time we hit Connie part 1 and 2, or the last episodes in this saga are the Eugene introduction episodes. For sure by then there's a bell. Yeah. Because Eugene changes it to a buzzer.
Yes.
Famously. Yes. And Tom's mad about it.
Yeah.
So... we will track the bell over the course of this series. Worry not, Chalk Squad.
Their minds are at ease. Their hearts are ready.
And the other thing of note, this episode originally aired December 12th of 1987.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, cast-wise, obviously, we got Walker Edmiston as Tom Riley. Mm-hmm. We got Hal Smith as Whit. We got Katie Lee as Connie.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Novak. Do you recognize the voice of Bobby?
That's Jimmy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
David Griffin, not as Jimmy, but as Bobby.
Yeah.
And then we've also got an actress named Dana Howerton playing the character of Amanda, who we hear in this episode just a little bit, and is also in like 4 early episodes of Odyssey or something, and that's it.
Yeah.
But
definitely, like, you can see so much of the DNA of Jimmy in Bobby.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there to the extent where there's even Jimmy has a crush on Connie at one point.
Yeah.
that is recycled plot down the road. But yeah, it is
because Bobby is 12, presumably, according to it.
Yeah. I feel like they cast David Griffin as Bobby, and then at a certain point went, we want to give this character a family. Mm-hmm. Let's make him a new character.
Yeah, 100%.
Because obviously he's a child. This is just his voice. Like there is no difference between a Jimmy performance and a Bobby performance at this age.
Not at all. Well, how early do the Barkleys get introduced? Are they album 2?
I don't remember offhand. I can find out real quick though, using the trusty Adventures in Odyssey wiki. We can find out without too much effort that Jimmy's first appearance is episode 31.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is album 2 for you. It's the family vacation episode.
Yeah.
Is where Jimmy spawns.
Wow. I didn't realize that was the introduction to them. That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this episode was part of the original 22 Odyssey USA, before it was rebranded as Adventures in Odyssey, and they were just kind of produced these 22 and then took a little bit of a break and then came back with the Adventures in Odyssey, the more formalized Odyssey.
It got picked up.
Yeah. Yeah, and the not to be confused with Family Portraits, which is the pilot.
Yeah.
Which is what if Focus on the Family made something not necessarily geared towards kids, but it was an audio drama. And it's we've got Family Portraits for that. Then we kind of established what we wanted here. And these episodes are now in the continuity going forward.
Yeah, in a way that Family Portraits is not.
Correct. But yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah, it's wild. The way this show continues to exist. And just a little bit on Connie here off the top, seeing as this is her origin episode.
Yes.
Which is,
crazy.
Bonkers.
I feel like I shouldn't be the one talking about it. We need a special guest or somebody.
Yeah. It's she's one of the 3.
Yeah.
And so they were, this is, talking about, so in the, per the official guide, once they had done their test run with Family Portraits and they were trying to figure out Odyssey, they were they needed more established characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so Steve Harris, who was show running at this point, worked with a writer named Joe Glauberg, whose credits are Happy Days and Mork and Mindy and more Hollywoody stuff.
Yeah.
To kind of build out some characters, and one of which, they already had Whit.
Yeah.
The other characters were Tom Riley. We're going to create a guy who has deep roots in the town of Odyssey. Mm-hmm. Whereas Whit's kind of an outsider a little bit in the beginning. Tom is this is his town.
Yeah.
And then Officer Harley, because we need a comical cop who's going to have to get edited out of the show, because he's a bad example. And then
but there are so many worse examples of cops.
yeah. And then
No hate crimes committed by Officer Harley, to my knowledge.
No, not that I know of. And then Connie is the other of the, hey, we need to establish these core characters. And yeah, Katie Lee had been a part of Family Portraits, and so the part of Connie was written with her in mind.
Oh, okay.
And which is when they kind of reshuffled it so that she could be in the episode after the birth of her son. And yeah, it's kind of like it's crazy that she's still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, when you said that, like, she's been through 3 wits.
Yeah.
She's been through 3 wits, and now she's lost Eugene.
But she's been through Eugene not being on the show to begin with, coming in, leaving for an amount of time, and then coming back.
Yep.
Like Will Ryan is not, like, even prior to his passing, was not a mainstay of the show to the degree that she was. Like, this is, her show in so many ways.
Certainly now at this point. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, I think she does a great job, and if anything, I'm glad that she is the heir apparent to Odyssey, and I really hope that they can, like, in the content that they continue to make, they give her more authority, explicitly.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'm not holding my breath for it. But,
no, certainly not.
But yeah, I know
better than that.
And it is one of those things where it's just like we've talked for so long about, like, can the show, like, the show continuing without wit and all of that baggage, and also being like, should, like, will it continue past Otka or whatever?
Yeah.
And obviously it's continuing past Will Ryan.
Yeah.
The question of it, like, of Odyssey existing without Katie Lee is something that I kind of don't want to think about.
No. I'm pretty sure if that were to happen, that's when I stop watching the soap opera. Like I feel they'll still make episodes, but I just
I feel like honestly, to a, like, in a very different way, but Chris Anthony has a similar situation for me where I'm just like, that's the other thing this episode does, is we have Chris.
Yeah.
From episode 4.
Yeah, like, we have Chris, and Chris is big. Chris says a lot. Like, Chris becomes a mainstay after
way more at this point.
Yeah.
Whereas now you could probably just reuse old audio and nobody would bat an eye.
Oh, no, certainly, yeah. But she became that because of this.
Yes, for sure.
Which is
for sure
very cool. And it's also, like, one of the saddest parts about listening to New Odyssey is, like, hearing a very clearly aged Chris.
Yeah. But look,
welcome me into my childhood.
If the show wants to continue post Chris, just hire Nathan.
Yeah.
He's already been doing it for 3 years.
He's got all the practice you need and a great voice.
Great voice. Listen to the Bible.
Amen. Or should I say, faux shizzle.
A shizzle.
A shizzle.
And a woman.
Dylan, do we have a promo for this episode?
We do, in fact. I wish these promos were dated, because I don't know when this promo aired with the episode, but we're going to listen to it regardless.
Hey, everybody. Say hi to Connie Kendall. She'll be helping me out here in the ice cream department.
Next time on Adventures in Odyssey. Even though Connie Kendall has just moved into Odyssey, she can hardly wait to run away.
Hey, I never wanted to get involved with anybody here, okay? I just wanted to earn some money and be on my way.
Find out what happens on the next Adventure in Odyssey.
A little fairy dust at the end there. That was nice.
It's just sweet.
It's really sweet. The synth of this era of the show is just golden. Like, the transitions, John Campbell is just, I don't know, loving it.
Yeah.
So, as we previously mentioned, this episode begins with a very substantial Chris intro. Like, the plot of the episode doesn't begin until...
after the first commercial break.
Yeah.
Which is how all these old ones are.
Yeah.
Like, this one is maybe a slightly less in-depth to what she has done in other episodes. But it's so much.
It's so much compared to what we have now, which is literally nothing.
And now, Adventures in Odyssey.
Yeah, exactly. With the Wad Fame Chalkpot, depending on if you get Nathan.
Yeah, we could not pull off the production of these early episodes. Like, we kicked it around, I think, the first time we covered one with a skit of, like, can we make this work? And we're just like, the answer is no.
No way. Couldn't be done. It's so elaborate, and sorry. This is a hobby. I don't make any money from this, so...
That being said, if you would like us to make money, we do have a way to give us that money.
Yes, please.
We are currently... We're offsetting costs still at this point, which we do truly appreciate because that is money.
Yeah.
But if you've been holding back and you really want some of this, probably as this episode's airing, we released our first fanfic episode, which is incredible and is a new format we're playing around with. I'm very happy with what's happening over there on the paid content. So
yeah, me too.
Not to shill for myself mid episode, but look, subscribe. The link's in the description.
Or just tell somebody that you know that you think would like the show. Yeah. I mean, that too.
Yeah.
It's a weird name, so look it up for them. It's helpful. But it's all caps, so...
It's all caps, there's no spaces, and it sounds the way it's spelled.
Yep. Dylan thought of everything.
Yeah. Most.
I
everything.
mean, honestly, it's incredibly, what would you say, SEO, search engine optimized?
It is. It's got good SEO.
But anyway, back to the intro of this episode. Chris is talking about the grass being greener on the other side, and then there's like a weird skit about a very confused, clearly 4-year-old trading his bike for a stick, and then the mom's like, oh man, like, what are you gonna do?
Yes, I did not know how well I was going to remember this episode until that skit happened, and I was like, oh, I know this episode beat for beat. What the heck?
I've listened to this plenty, but it's been a long time for me.
Yeah, I think as a guy who just like a lot of times would cherry pick episodes, the fact that it has Connie in the title makes it pretty clear.
Fair.
And yeah, that skit happened and I was like, oh boy, do I remember trading a stick for a bike. And exasperated mom, also played by Chris. Like,
gotta love it. And then we go jump right into a wit intro.
No, we do not, because we have her setting up how much Paul's life sucks.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, right off the bat. There's a child trading a stick for a bike, and then she doesn't say Paul's name.
Right.
She just says a character in the Bible also, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And he does this.
Right. Yep. And it's like, I don't know, by the second thing, I'm like, okay, it's Paul.
Yeah.
Jail and shipwreck, and that one time he had to be lowered down in a basket, and I'm like, I just read Acts 10 the other day. I know that.
Well, that was the red herring for me. That threw me off and made me think it was Old Testament. I was like, wait, isn't that Rahab? Did she do But then he said shipwrecked, and I was like, there's no way there was water on Jericho.
Andrew, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
No, I did get thrown off by the basket bit, though. And then, am I missing anything else before the wit intro?
No, I think we can actually go into.
Yeah, which is classic, and obviously first album, just so nostalgic.
Hold in!
Yeah. Just Dylan's got plenty of practice doing that one.
I do. I've recorded it more than once.
Twice. Only twice. Yeah, my first note is just classic. I missed this. Like, this is just... I mean, it feels yellowed with age, but I love it.
Yeah. We start out with like the most one-sided telephone call.
Yes.
Like, there is stuff in this episode where I'm like, boy, like, is this early on in the scripting of the show. And Wit's doing so much work to convey both sides of the call.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, it's...
But...
Well, and because they have to have him doing that while he's doing, like, 3 other things at the same time, which makes it sound horribly inorganic.
Yeah, because then it just becomes a who's on first bit.
Yes, 100%, yeah.
Like, Tom shows up, and he's trying to talk to Tom while be on the phone, and then a kid runs up, and then another kid, and Wit's trying to juggle all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it establishes, like, Wit's understaffed. But it was...
And he's going to teach on the Mount of Transfiguration on Sunday.
Yeah, he is. It's in Matthew, Mark, and Freddie.
It's my favorite gospel.
I know Freddie's not in the Bible. Freddie's in the room. Like, it's...
Yeah.
It is... I think the thing that comes through is where the script isn't there.
Yeah.
The engineering is there from day one.
100%.
In my opinion, like, the sense of placement and people and all of that.
And character interactions, like, what is that going to look like?
Yep.
Like, Tom coming by with a load from the dairy? Like, what was the, like, I think it's been a while since we've heard about where Wits End gets its milk from. Like,
Yeah.
It's just
It's locally sourced. Before that was cool.
Ooh, I'd love to see it. Is it coming from Tom's barn?
Oh, I didn't get that impression, but
I
maybe.
didn't either. Maybe specialty once a year type thing, artisanal.
But yeah, it is just there's such the performances, the interplay, and the way it is all recorded to sound like a real room is so well done.
Yeah.
Even if the script is tedious, and like I think this first scene is too long.
Oh yeah, I thought that
like the who's on first bit just keeps going, but without really escalating.
Yeah.
Like there's funnier ways to do it, but it's like it kind of hits a plateau and then just continues at that same spot to where it gets a bit exhausting.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, it takes too long for Tom to inevitably bring it up, the fact that, like, they are understaffed. You need to get people, like, you have to keep asking me to help out, just get me an apron or whatever. And Wit's like, oh yeah, I'll run over and take care of it.
But also I think is funny is, like, it didn't occur to me until Tom said it that Wits End was understaffed.
Fair.
Like, I didn't get that was the premise of the original, because in my mind, Connie's just busy doing something else.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, it's hard to put yourself in a Wits End that is just wit.
Yeah, just wit.
Like, that's crazy.
Well, and, like, I could only tell because of the level of noise that, like, there wasn't much crowd control.
Yeah, for sure. But I feel like we've had plenty of, like, just Connie covering Wits End, or like the stuff when they hire Aubrey when they need someone. Like we've seen seasons of. Is Jay working at Wits End now?
Oh, not Jay.
Nick
smokes cigarettes. Nick. Yeah.
No, Andrew, that's you.
Hey, not on the podcast. I'm not smoking right now. What are you talking about?
But yeah, so that didn't feel like I've seen Wits End be overwhelmed by people before, but the idea of like only Wit operates this shop is so funny.
What? Yeah, one guy to sling ice cream for all those kids? Are you kidding me? As somebody that works in the food service industry and professionally has to multitask at all times, like, that ain't happening, brother.
Yeah.
And then, but it is cool because in the heat of it, like, Wit pivots to immediately meet the needs of the kids' personal relationships that were going on.
Yep.
So, like, Tom is coming in, Tom's a friend, somebody from church is on the phone, he's trying to balance all these things at once, but then when a kid comes up and is saying, like, there's actually something going on here, Wit is immediately there for them, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but you're absolutely right. He immediately prioritizes the conflict that is happening over all the hubbub.
Which is like, yeah, I think it's important to point out just because it's like a fundamental part of Odyssey. We joke about, Wits End's menu and how much stuff costs and do people pay for stuff and whatever. And I think it's because of stuff like this, where it's like so early on in the show, it is not about this being a business. It's about a place where people are,
Well put.
Thanks.
Put. Yeah, Wick goes off to solve this argument between Jimmy and Amanda, and is what?
Wait,
it's Bobby.
I thought I was wrong. I straight up thought that it wasn't Bobby.
Nope, that's on me, folks.
Oh, that's funny. Hey man, that's the same voice. There's plenty of grace for it.
It's too funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he settles the argument, and then
in walks Connie.
right. Well, he's like, Bobby's bored, and it's like, well, stay alert. Excitement could be right on the other side of the door.
Yeah.
And Connie then on cue walks through the door
Without any bell, and I got mad.
and see. I assumed that they were in, like, the Bible room.
Yeah.
Like, I am so trained to be like, bell, door, that's how someone enters. That when there's no bell and she enters the room, I just assumed they
It's a
were not
different room.
in the ice cream portion of the store.
Yeah,
And so in my head, genuinely, that entire scene is taking place in, like, a different room.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I
That's
picture
fair.
it all in the trailer.
Like with like the wood siding
Or
on the
the-
walls or something. Yeah.
Dude, dimly lit, carpeted floor, wood dark wood panel sides.
Yep. Big train table, center of the room.
Yep.
Can see it now.
That is wild that you and I have
The
this.
same thing of what a train room's gonna be like. Yeah, that's fair. Oh man, I'm wondering if our it's definitely been like conditioned into us at this point, that bell sound.
Yeah, no, because that's the thing is I didn't even question that there wasn't a bell. I was just like, oh, they're in a different room.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's the definition of Pavlovian.
Yeah. With the bell and everything. We love it.
That yes.
Chalk Squad, are you familiar with Pavlov's experiments on animals and that relation to Bell?
Oh man. But yeah,
So she's looking for Front Street for a department store because she has like a job interview or she has a job application.
Yeah, she was looking through the paper and found a spot, like a job.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to get there. Can
Mm-hmm.
you point me in the right direction? And rather than giving her the answer, Whit just starts being super nosy.
Yep.
And
Incredibly nosy.
He's just like, yeah, she's like, I'm trying to save up money to get back to LA. And he's like, oh, who, do you have family there? She's like, well, my dad, but he, just my dad, but he's off doing, we don't see much of him or something like that. And then it's like, oh, well, have you worked in, a department store before? And she's like, no, but I've shopped in a lot of them. My only ever job before was doing some waitressing. And it's like, oh, well, did you see this job posting? And she's like, yeah. How do you get to Front Street? Or I guess I'll just go find Front Street on my own. He's like, but wait.
Yeah.
I've got a job for you.
Yeah. You come work here. And like, it's not I don't hate his argument because he does a good job. Like, he basically offers to match the price of the department store, offers the job, come work for me, you've got experience. And Connie's like, well, why would you just offer me a job out of the blue like that? And I'm like, well, I mean, I feel like I know you pretty well at this point, know about your family and previous experience and stuff.
Yeah, where he's like, I don't know. I think the part that's handled, I think that his nosiness is frustrating.
Yes.
But him offering her a job in light of that is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, well, look, you've already told me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
So, like, you want to just, jump in on this. And she's like, she's like, well, you haven't even told me what it'll pay. He's like, I'm Whit. Money is no object.
Yeah.
I own an encyclopedia company. I used to work for the NSA. I'm an archaeologist. Like, we'll just make it happen.
Money is not real to me, okay?
Right.
Like,
yeah. I own a Wits End.
You're getting
I
minimum
own an
wage.
ice cream shop where money costs stuff. Or like where food costs maybe money, maybe not. Who knows? This might be a charity. And he's like, but I'm just going to call up the department store and find out what he would pay you.
Yeah, mentions the person by name, like, oh, I know this person.
Yep.
Oh, I'll just call them up. Whatever they're paying you, I got you.
Right. Which is funny.
And
like it's like
weird.
Wit is so unconcerned with money to where it's like, oh, it didn't even occur to him, but as soon as it does, it's the non-est of issues.
Yeah.
And it's so, I don't know, it encapsulates him and this show and this time period and what they're going for so well.
Well, they even set that up a little bit in the previous scene with Tom where he said that he was looking for help, but he hadn't found the right person.
Yeah.
And so, like, obviously this is meant very directly to set up Connie walking in and him just giving her the job, like,
yeah,
basically throwing it at her.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
and then you hear Tom fumble behind the bar and screw something up for a kid.
Yep.
And Wit's like, we need help.
Yep. And they also he refers to it as the ice cream department.
Yeah.
Which I assume is a joke about the department store thing.
Yeah.
But is still just weird.
I would love it if it was a department, though. Like,
I was like, wait, when there's two employees,
expansive.
you don't have departments.
We have an AI department. We have a biblical, theological, historical accuracy department, and ice cream department. Pizza department coming soon.
Actually, as a listener pointed out, I think Wit's Flop is making a pizza machine. So there's like pizza from episode 1 at Wit's End.
You're right. That person is right.
So shout out to
How did?
Yeah.
So we have to be the ones to corner the brand on Wit's End Pizza. This is an Easter egg that is ripe to be harvested upon. Michaela, we need you now more than ever.
Do you want Wit's End Pizza merch, or do you want to open a pizza shop called Wit's End?
We'll start with the merch and see where it goes. You know, I think that adding it to our catalog is pretty low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of pizza t-shirt memes out there to go off of.
Look, we already sell a shirt based off salami. I think we can manage.
Yeah.
I think we can manage something that's pizza related.
True. Oh. God, I love creativity.
But
and salami.
The part of meat you don't want to eat.
Except for me.
So yeah, then we get a scene of Connie and Bobby talking. I guess they're walking together to go pick up like work clothes for Connie or whatever. And Bobby's her guide, and he's talking to her about California, and she's, she says like, "Oh, I've never been bored," and I'm like,
"What?
Who? What? How?
What
you're
childhood?
Like, you're what? Like 14?
Yeah.
How have you never been bored?"
I mean, I guess
Excuse
you've
me?
only been alive 14 years, so like,
Dude,
you only have to make it through 1 year without being bored 14 times. But
wow. Look at you.
Exactly. Sounds ridiculous, huh, Connie?
But yeah, it was.
She's never bored. It's so exciting. She was in a movie. I don't think that's mentioned here, but it's mentioned later. And Bobby's like, just so excited.
Right. She was an extra in a movie that filmed at her high school.
Yeah.
Good joke.
Top notch.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, Bobby's talking about, there's like some kid who like, he really likes the idea of California. He talks about there's this kid in his class who is in California whose neighbor cleans Don Johnson's pole.
Yeah.
So
gotta love my lame claim to fame.
Wild. I mean, like, that is like the perfect kid story, and it's also absolutely insane for the like Odyssey to reference a real person.
Yeah, so early on.
Like I was just like, oh, we're talking Miami Vice's Don Johnson? We're talking Knives Out's Don Johnson?
We're just in episode 4?
We're just casually gonna drop Django Unchained's Don Johnson? Like, it's a wild call, but
well, I mean at least his pool. So, not really.
Yeah.
Focus wouldn't endorse such things directly.
No. Well, but it is such the like perfect like look around the room, see a TV guide. It's 1987. Don Johnson. Like that is
100%.
That's like peak Miami Vice right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bobby talks about like hey, it would be dangerous for you to go the whole way out to California, a girl on your own. And I'm like, hello, child being written by an adult man.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, also, hello, child written to be a 12-year-old, written by an adult man. Like, voice acted by an 8-year-old, crushing on a 16-year-old. Written by a 30-year-old.
Yeah, and it is, oh man.
This is some prequels-ish.
Yeah, it's such like right out the back toxic masculinity where I'm just like, he's like, I'm going to go along and I'm going to protect you on the bus. And I'm just like, who are you, child, and what's happening here?
Yeah, you're... What?
I agree. He
sounds so young.
He sounds so young, where it's like if you play this as like those words coming out of Rodney's mouth in...
Aloha Oi.
Make total sense.
Perfect sense. Coming
Here
out of...
it is a, like, who sounds like a 6-year-old.
Yes.
Talking to Connie, who I think is probably, like, 14.
Yeah.
Is kind of where they're shooting
maybe
with this.
15.
Yeah, maybe. Connie's hard to place age-wise.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is she 16? How old do you have to be to work in Odyssey?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Maybe she is older. Maybe she is 16.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
she
could
won't
be
get her
even younger.
driver's license for 10 years. So
it doesn't matter. Time ain't sticky here.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just
Mr.
weird.
Whitaker gets brought up
Right.
and his moral values, and Connie's like, "Oh, he's into religion, huh?"
She's like, "Oh yeah, and Bobby's like, well, yeah, he's a Christian. And Connie's like, what? I can't believe I'm working for a Christian. I got to get back to California where there are no Christians.
Yep. Not a ton of really powerful ones.
Yeah. Hey, focus on the family. I don't know if you remembered this because it was only like 20 years before this episode came out, but like mainstream evangelical Christianity started in California. All of the worship music that you were listening to and that everything is influenced from started in California by a bunch of hippies. So, sorry about that.
I'm going to need to sleep with one eye open tonight because I don't think this is going to go over well. Russia's at Ukraine's border and Focus is going to be beating down my doors. You could never...
but yeah,
Phil Lawler climbs in my window.
He's on your ceiling.
Yeah. He's got to avoid the ceiling fan though. Always sleep with that on. So maybe he's on my ceiling, then he hits the ceiling fan, and I wake up with Phil Lawler hitting the floor.
You don't realize the joke you made, do you?
No.
Ceiling fan is like the famous Adventures in Odyssey fan show spin-off thing.
Yes.
And you said gotta avoid the ceiling fan, and I was like, that's a perfect joke. He doesn't
the only
know it
perfect
yet.
ones. It's perfect because I didn't know it.
But yeah, Anyways, and that's anything else on that scene?
No.
Because then we jump back to Wits End, where Connie's been working for an indeterminate amount of time and has saved up enough money to go back. And Wit's like, the kids are really going to miss you.
Yeah.
And
especially Bobby.
This is a horrible scene. I hate this scene.
Yeah, not a fan.
Wit is so passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
It is insane.
Yeah.
The line drawn from this Wit to Mori-wit
Yeah.
is so clean as opposed to everything that happened in between.
which was better.
Yeah. He's just like, oh, it's so, and it is so, Wit in this scene, I feel like more than maybe most, is such a transparent vessel for what the writers wanted to say to the world.
Yeah.
In a way that just really bugs me. And he's talking about like, yeah, like, you know, going back to California all by yourself in a big city. Like, I just want you to see how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
And it's the worst villainization of like big cities, which is so racially charged.
Yeah.
And so
Classist.
classist, so snobbish,
Yeah.
so born out of like 50s America that it just pisses me off.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I hate this like holier than thou. We're in a small town and that makes us better. And I realize that's literally the premise of Adventures in Odyssey. Like, the reason this show exists is because of this.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, for the most part, it's just the fun parts of being in a small town, which I can relate to as someone in a small town. And I imagine, even if you're not in a small town, you have your neighborhood. You have, like, it's not... There are versions of this, regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
But the direct, then, conflict of, like, cities are bad, and you will turn out a worse person if you go back to one.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you stay here, where you will only turn out a great person.
Yeah.
Well,
it comes from like a sense of, you know, homogeny, where it's like, well, because we're right and everybody is like us, if you stay here, there's no way that you can turn out bad. But if you go there, you hear from everybody, and what? You're going to have to make decisions for yourself? Well, we can't trust you to do anything right. And then, fair. It's none of your business, though.
Yeah.
I just got here. I'm 14.
Yeah.
Let me go home.
Yeah. And then it just gets worse from here.
Yeah.
Because he then is like, you know, and if you go back, you know, Bobby's coming with you. He's, you know, you've got a problem. This is he is so infatuated with you and with this that he is like going to run away from home, and that's on you, Connie. And I'm like, no.
Not on you.
This is a very young child being carried away. She has done nothing to egg him on. She is like, she's not responsible for him. This is not a serious threat. The
also,
idea
who
that
let
he would actually
the 6-year-old buy a bus ticket.
Right. The idea that he would actually be able to follow through with this is preposterous, and the idea that Connie is responsible for it is ridiculous. And he's like, didn't you know he has a crush on you? Now that part isn't your fault. And then goes on to do all of the rest. Also, that part isn't your fault, but if you were wearing that dress... then it would be your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not your fault because you're doing things because you present yourself in a way that I find that, like, I approve of.
Yeah.
But if you presented yourself slightly differently, this conversation would be, now that's your fault for making him fall for you.
Yes.
And I just, that dichotomy...
You wore makeup... Now this child is running away from home.
Yeah.
Straight line between the two.
He holds her responsible for it. I think it's funny that he calls attention to, like, it's not your fault that he has a crush on you. When, like, because obviously it's not. None of this is her fault. But also, you're only able to say that with because you, like, because... yeah, she's conforming to your idea of how she should exist in that dimension.
Because she's 14 and has distant parents. Like, if anything, it's kind of yucky. And like, I don't think that Whit has any bad intentions for Connie,
Right.
but it shows a very
well, and it's-
close-minded and like selfish perspective that like, I think that a counter moves era Whit is not gonna say those things.
I think the perfect foil to this is the version of this storyline that actually exists in Odyssey is Richard and Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
That is how this thing genuinely plays out.
Yeah.
And one, Whit does not confront Richard nearly as hardly.
No.
And two, in that instance, Richard is being manipulative
Yes.
and doing this with intention.
Yes.
And it is genuinely bad, and we need to call attention to that.
Yes.
In this scene, Connie has done nothing.
She's clocked in twice. Like,
She's also, like, so the thing, they keep going on where Whit's like, you know, you have to be aware of the influence you have.
yeah.
Every time you come in contact with another human being, something happens. Neither one of you is ever quite the same again. You can't drift through life thinking you're never going to influence everyone. God made each and every one of us to be dependent on other people. He wants us to feel some sort of responsibility towards each other. What type of world would we live in if we didn't care about one another? And the second half of that is so good that it almost masks the first.
Yes.
Because the idea that, like, I don't think Connie's obviously not seeking to influence people. Mm-hmm. She is having an influence on people. I also don't think she is... I think Whit is putting too much weight in her influence.
Yeah.
And that Connie
And not enough
is...
recognition of his own authority over the situation.
And that Connie is responding in a pretty good way.
The fact
like-
that she showed up for work on time at the age of 14, I don't know how much more you can ask from her. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, and the stuff where I'm just get the most mad at Whit. Like, Whit is so angry here. He is playing it with so much. There is a scene in which Katie Lee plays Connie as nearly crying in a way that, like, punches me to my gut.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Whit, you also... Like, Connie isn't saying that she has zero responsibility over this situation. That's not her message.
No.
But she's acknowledging that, like, she did influence him in that way, but she's just not taking responsibility for that influence, nor should she.
Yes.
Like, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Whit, you're the adult in this situation. Like, Connie is new in town. This is, like, she has not been here before. This is a new environment. She is a high school kid.
Yeah.
And she is not a Christian.
Yeah. Not at all. Don't know anything like you. Yeah.
Whit holding... I'm not saying that we can't call people towards better standards, but Whit holding her to this standard with so much judgment that she is on the verge of tears...
is not a good Christian moment. Certainly not.
It's not the play.
No, not at all. And it's not in character, and it doesn't seem like what they wanted Whit to be, but in that moment, like, it's like what you said, where Whit becomes the mouthpiece instead of Wit.
Yep.
You know?
Yes. I think that this, it just so transparently becomes a megaphone for them to get out their message.
Yeah.
And... yeah, it's a message first rather than character first thing, and it's so grating.
Yeah.
Also, there's just a weird moment where Whit says, "Okay, so you're not a believer."
Yeah, that is
in
weird.
a way that sounds like it was recorded on a different planet.
Yeah.
Like
okay, so you're not a believer. 3 weeks later, he comes back to finish the sentence.
Right, like Connie says something. The next day, Whit goes, "Okay, so you're not a believer." And the conversation changes again. Like it's a weird. It's just a weird in an episode that sounds so good otherwise.
Well,
it just struck me as
very
what
different.
Is this?
Yeah.
What is this line reading?
what is this line reading? Why is that there? Why is it emphasized like that?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. And then, right, the part of this, well, so let me finish out the insanity, which is Wit ending on this line where he's like, are you going to be able to raise a 12-year-old boy or whatever? And I'm just like, how did we get here? Why are you, like, that is, at this point, Wit is, like, just straight up bullying her.
Yes, 100%.
Where
bullying
I'm like, that
a
is
child.
founded on literally nothing, Wit.
Yep.
You are just, like, you're
it
fighting so
escalates.
hard to get her to stay here.
Yeah.
And I realize that creates the show that we want and love.
Mm-hmm.
But your methodology is terrible, that you don't win Connie over by showing how you guys are different.
Mm-hmm.
You bully her into staying because you scare her away from the alternative.
Yeah. Which is horrible marketing. I
Right,
mean, it's
it's
very
like-
effective
it's like-
marketing, but it's a horrible religion.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, it's the become a Christian so you don't go to hell
Yep.
of Odyssey.
Yep.
Where it's like, it's not stay in Odyssey because it's so great here and, you know, you will enjoy it and whatever. It's if you go back to California, your life will fall apart.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, I mean, she was running away from home at the age of 14. Connie should not have been doing that. You know, she shouldn't be going there alone.
Yeah.
At the age of 14. However, John Avery Whittaker, resident not her dad, not her legal guardian, not of any previous connection to her, has no right to stick his nose in that business beyond, I just want you to be safe.
Right. Yeah.
You
I guess
can be like, please be safe, have somebody go with you, you can call me, whatever, you know, but...
Yeah,
But
we
you
didn't
have no-
really talk about that piece of it, but it's Connie is not telling her mom she's going back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I even don't hate Wit talking to her about that. I wish she did it with less passive aggression.
Yeah.
I wish she just straight up was like, hey, so your mom doesn't know you're doing this. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that he approached it from not a stance of you're dumb and you got to figure this out and how could you be so dumb, but from what are the factors that got you to this point and are you okay with the repercussions?
Yeah, exactly.
But not in a way that villainizes the repercussions. Like, at no point in this, like, he briefly says, like, don't you think that might hurt your mom a bit?
Yeah.
But, like, that's the thing to talk about more
Yes,
so.
exactly.
Is how is this going to damage your relationship with your mom? Mm-hmm. Not, like, how are you going to handle raising a kid who's a few years younger than you?
Yeah. But, yeah, and that's the thing where in that conversation, it just escalates in a very chaotic way that feels not Wit. Like, not the slow, calculated, careful, I'm an old guy, I know when to close my mouth. This is Wit stooping to the level of a 14-year-old.
Yeah. And anyways, that's the end of my most frustrated rant. Mm-hmm. I do want to talk about the other half of that quote that I think is, like, good.
Very good.
If you're into it.
Very good. Yeah, go for it.
Which is, like, God made each and every one of us to be dependent on other people. He wants us to feel some sort of responsibility to each other. What type of world would we live in if we didn't care for one another?
Wouldn't function.
Like, I genuinely, like, I would say the line of he wants us to feel some sort of responsibility towards one another is, I appreciate the sentiment. I think that could maybe be presented in a way that is less charged.
Yeah.
But-
responsibility is very hard to divvy up in a healthy way.
Yes.
Because it's 100 or 0.
Yeah, because being like we are, we want to engage in the people around us in a responsible way. We cannot hold ourselves responsible for their actions.
Exactly.
Because that is a road to destruction. But the sentiment of we need to like be dependent on other people, not try and do this on our own, and care about our neighbors is something I really care about.
100%. And it's
like
core
community
biblical,
is so important to,
and that's what is like, that should be the argument. That should be the argument that keeps Connie in town, is the community. And that's what is presented, but not what Wit says.
Right. Because at the end of the episode,
it's like she stays in spite of Wit. More
at the end of the episode, she says, like, I wanted to go back to California because, like, people liked me and I had friends and whatever, and I have that here.
Yeah.
And that's a good sentiment. I like the idea of, hey, she has found a community, and so she has reason to stay.
Yeah.
That is genuinely great. And I think that there's even a version of that where the part of the community she presents that she has is Wit and his influence and mentorship. Like, I think that that is a good piece of her community.
Yeah.
I don't think that he acts in that way in this episode.
No, certainly not.
But I think that there's a version of the script where he could, and we could motivate her to stay just because she feels like she's making these deep connections with the people around her.
Yeah. I would say that is the difference maker between a city and a small town, is that it's a lot easier to get connected in a small town.
Yeah. There's for sure there's a more immediacy where it's like, it's less hard, like it's not something you have to seek out as hard.
Yeah.
That being said, if you're like, you will by proxy, no matter where you are, get to know people.
In a city, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
no matter
can
where
build
you are.
community with the people
Right.
in your apartment building.
Right, but like you will
yeah.
run into people on a regular enough basis, no matter where you are, and no matter how many people are around you, that there's familiarity. Like, you can't go anywhere and not have that, because even if you're in the middle of nowhere, you still have to go into town.
Yeah.
And then there's only one guy who works at that shop, and you're like
100%.
best friends.
Yeah.
Like that's, or you just, shake hands and buy gas or whatever, but
Yeah.
like you have
Familiarity.
Yes. That familiarity and community is like almost impossible to avoid.
Yeah.
But
And it's such
I
a
do
strong
think,
selling
I think Odyssey presents a good opportunity for Connie to have good community. I think that she could find that in California too.
Oh, 100%.
But I think that, I agree. The idea of her burning bridges with her mom in order to do that is tough.
What she should have done instead of going back to California is go to Maine and hook up with Mitch. Early on, them both in high school. That's the spinoff I want.
There
That's
you go.
what I'm saying.
Write that fanfic. We'll read it. But yeah,
what I'm
just like I think Connie finding a valuable community is the rewrite I would do on this episode, rather than being scared away from Odyssey because she'd have all this additional responsibility if she went back, and her world would crumble around her. Life as she knew it would end because of the choices she's made and the influence she's had. And I'm just like, I want to influence the people around me. Like, I want to have an impact in the lives of my friends. I want to be able to speak truth into those relationships, and not like, if your prioritization is only ever be friends with everyone, then like there's a lack of depth there.
Yeah, 100%.
But like building those relationships where it's like they can say stuff to me and it counts, and I can say stuff to them and it counts, and like that is so freaking valuable and so important to me. And I'm just like, we do need to care for one another, and not just the people who we want to care for, but the
Exactly.
people we don't. And like
primarily like like I don't know, I've been going through James and Hebrews for my New Testament class, and they take a very a not Paul perspective on the early church, and it's very Christ-centered and a lot less institutionally concerned, and just a lot more about like living life as Christ means just loving other people and serving other people and seeking opportunities to restore relationships, even if it's at your own expense, for the sake of everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and like,
Yeah.
that's not what we get from here, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's tough, and I don't think I do it well always.
no,
And
certainly not.
Yeah, I want to be better about it. That factor of just like, I don't know, being willing to like, I don't know. My thing I've been wrestling with recently is just, what is the point at which it is worth potentially losing a relationship in order to be heard? Where it's just like, if I am really struggling with X, Y, and Z that's going on in someone's life, and I'm like, I am watching you go down such a bad path. But I'm like, if I say something and then you no longer listen to anything I ever say,
Then, yeah.
like, is that worth it? And that has been, that is just really pulling back the curtain. Did not expect to get this vulnerable, but like, that has been like the big thing I've been wrestling with recently.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
just like, at what point am I just building up relational capital and never actually cashing out on it?
No, 100%. Well, and dealing with confrontation in that, like, in that vein, especially when you care about somebody genuinely, is delicate in any and every instance. And that's, I think, the part about Wit that we both don't like the most, is that he just comes in there cavalierly with no kid gloves, no really empathy or consideration to, you know, to gain a better understanding, but rather just kind of put his solution in place.
Yeah, there is a definite lack of delicacy. But he comes up with a solution in the end that will solve everything. And it's, if Connie guest MCs the Bible Bowl.
Yep, and then gets Bobby to help because she can't read the Bible names.
Yep, as like Tom is planted in the crowd
Yeah,
to
what?
prod Bobby about this stuff, where he's just like, man, Bobby, you should volunteer to go up there and help out Connie. And Bobby's like, what? I don't have, like, I can't, you know, she's gonna miss the bus.
Yeah.
And they get up on stage and he's like, you're missing the bus. And he's like, yeah. She's like, yeah. You know, I'll show you how to get a refund. And yeah.
You tell me how to pronounce Melchizedek.
Right. And she's, yeah.
Another heavy feature in the book of Hebrews.
He's also like, you know, Mr. Whitaker got to you, didn't he?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it wasn't that. It was.
Yeah.
But this is when she talks
Turns out
about
being
like,
bullied violently is it's
Yeah.
effective, unfortunately.
right. But it's where she says like, you know, I, you know, have friends and am liked here. And I'm just like, and that's what I had in California, and now I have it here. So, you know, I'm going to give this a shot.
Yeah.
And I like that sentiment. I just wish that we got to it differently. I also wish that Connie would actually have friends here.
Yes.
Because it will be 30 years till she meets Penny.
Yeah. And Penny is one person.
Right.
Who is not even that similar to Connie.
She for sure has Eugene, but like,
Yeah.
and there are other people. I feel like in these early Odyssey episodes, we do get like some of her high school people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Which I'm excited to get into.
yeah,
It's been so long since I've done since I've listened to early
Yeah.
Connie stuff,
yeah.
and like
This is I'm so excited for what we're about to be going through here.
yeah.
Anything else you want to say on this one, Andrew?
Nah, I mean it was good. Connie's great. Wit's terrible.
Yeah.
The format's fine. I
Yeah,
have
it's-
so much nostalgia for it. I love this, like the music from this era of the show, and I think just this listen through has shown me how much of the show's DNA is cyclical and is building upon these basic original concepts that were established so early on. So like we've been making this podcast for, 40 years, for 4 years. And, this is the earliest episode we've ever covered. So we've talked about so much of what Odyssey is. And now this arc lets us take a much closer look at how that got there. And Connie is the prime example of it because she's queen.
Yeah. It's exciting to like do the origin story.
Yeah, right?
Like
how did it take us this long?
Yeah.
We did Twilight Zone before we did this?
Absolutely. Best decision we've ever made on this podcast, guys.
100%.
But yeah, so the episode that we are discussing next is literally the next episode. We're gonna be back next week to talk about episode 5, Gifts for Madge and Guy.
Oh, bye guys.
Bye, Madges.